Welcome back, members, as we continue our interesting conversation with Devra and the Archangel Michael. We left off when we were talking about relationships.
Most people will go do something with their significant other because it's interesting to their significant other, and they aren't really there when it's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have a truly good relationship is when you have one like yours, where when you're not together, you're with yourself doing what you want to be doing. When you are together, you're together.
That's right. And there's so much to share. It's like, guess what happened? You know, you really have something to talk about.
Absolutely. If we all had relationships with others and ourselves that were like that, God, this world would just function so much better.
Yeah, codependence would not be an issue.
Yeah, which is just another part of trauma drama, right?
Right.
You know, if you're codependent, you're in the drama.
That's
usually
right.
Someone else's.
But, you know, I think a lot of that, you know, a lot of the growing up happens with time and experience. You know, we're taught and trained, especially when you have mothers. You know, my mother was born in the 50s, so she had a different perspective about how women were to behave. I mean, my goodness, she won a beauty contest and won a college scholarship, and didn't go because my dad didn't want her to go. He felt she was supposed to stay home.
I was the youngest and only girl in a conservative Jewish family.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think my parents ever thought that I would grow up and become an intuitive life coach talking to Archangel Michael? No.
No?
I wasn't even supposed to go to college. I was supposed to marry a doctor or a lawyer.
Right.
And the perceptions, the perceptions have shifted, but I don't necessarily know if they're better. Do you think they're better now or just different?
I think they're getting better. And, and I'm an eternal optimist. I think they're getting a lot better. I think young people, my children, now they were both born in the 80s, and they have a completely different perspective on things. They're more open. They're racism is not an issue for them. I think a whole lot of the problems that we're dealing with in the world are just a backlash from those older generations. They're still in power and running things.
Yeah.
So the world is still moving through their perspective. But I think the younger generations are better, especially in relationship and human relationships in general.
Michael says he feels they're getting better, but not at as quick a pace as they should be. That there is way still too much hate and ignorance.
There is. You
and
still have that generation that wants to hang on to fossil fuels, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing, and they're the ones that are still running the show right now.
It drives him crazy that we can do this technology at the rate and pace we're doing it,
right?
But we can't do common sense at all anymore.
Yeah.
According to Michael, the humanity that's being lost is in not teaching self-esteem for others as well as ourselves. And just opening doors for people, simple acts of kindness. And he really feels like if we can create, he loves flat screen TVs. I don't know why, but he thinks it's really cool that we can hang a TV on the wall. But if we could do that, he doesn't understand why people are starving in Africa or any place else in the world, much less places in the United States. He doesn't understand why, people are addicted to drugs when we have the technology not to have any drugs.
So what's the answer to that? I mean, let's ask Michael about that. I mean, if you have people that come back into the human experience, they die, and they hang out for a while or not, and they return back in. Why is it that people make the choice to go into poverty, to go into less than ideal circumstances?
Yeah, most of it, he's saying, is to educate others. He said that's one of the reasons that we've had this tremendous influx over the last 30 years of ADHD in kids and autism in kids. Is these kids have come in to teach us, whether it's teaching us about being careful what to put in our bodies and what preservatives we should be eating when we're pregnant, whatever. Maybe with some of them, I've had some of them tell me that it's to teach us to be quiet and pay attention and listen. That you don't have to communicate in words and anger and all these things. You can communicate in the quiet.
Yeah,
you don't.
So they're showing up in their imperfection to reveal the perfection.
Absolutely. Michael's saying it's a lot like a lot of the problems minorities had in the 60s. It's like, why come back into that kind of a life? Well, it was to teach this planet that everybody's the same, everybody's equal. When women were out there getting killed because they were fighting for the vote, it's because they were teaching men that we were equal. Without us, there wouldn't be them.
Exactly.
So it's lessons. Now we have this, rash of kids with autism, and how much of that is simply trying to teach us how to be more aware. I don't know, or maybe more compassionate.
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps when you have someone who is needing help, or someone who seems to be disabled, that does pull up compassion in you. I mean, how else will you develop it unless you're needing to have compassion towards something?
Right.
So
Michael wants to know what you think the biggest lesson is on this planet right now.
I think the biggest lesson on this planet right now, and it's going to sound really broad, but that it all boils down to love, starting with self-love and acceptance. We're working so hard to be what we're really not. I mean, you see teens starving themselves to be thin like supermodels. You see people of different minorities making changes with surgeries to look like others. You see people not accepting and loving themselves.
So Michael says, so instead of saying love, that love is the lesson, what about shifting the perspective to acceptance?
Acceptance, yes.
That he thinks that this, love, we gotta all love each other stuff is kind of overused and misunderstood, and that he'd like to see us start using some other words.
Yes, acceptance is a great one.
How to accept yourself, whether you're poor or you're not. I mean, I've seen a lot more rich people messed up than I've seen poor people messed up.
And that's, in that case, it seems that it's all about you're looking for something outside of yourself, that you're not enough, so that you have to do all kinds of things to get a whole lot of money or whatever
you're not
it is.
Accepting. Well, Michael says, look at the TV you guys watch. Look at your examples of what rich is supposed to be. Look at the Real Housewives. Here's a bunch of, women that need to get a life, not be stars that people look up to. Oh, I want to be rich and messed up like her.
Isn't that something? That comes from just what you were talking about, being addicted to the drama.
Mm-hmm.
Watching these people who are exhibiting some of the worst human frailties, and we idolize them. It's amazing.
Yeah, the whole. I would like to, take all of them and put them in this little bubble and send them to, some poor, starving South American country without their credit cards and say, okay, you think this is hard? Let me show you trauma drama, real trauma.
Yeah,
so,
I don't watch
and it is. I think it is acceptance. Accept who you are, where you're at, and then you can move forward and be anything else.
And you can accept others as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it starts with self.
This one client years ago hated his job. I mean, every 6 months he'd call me. I just want to know what else I can do, how else I can do it. And Michael finally said, until you are happy in a hole, digging a ditch, getting muddy and dirty, until you are happy there, you can't go anywhere else. You have to accept, oh, I'm doing this. And then you can go do something else.
Right.
And it was very interesting because the guy decided he had changed his whole attitude about his job. And he wasn't a ditch digger. I think he was like a IT guy and was bored to tears. And he decided to go in and start playing at work and having fun with the people he worked with and taking baked goods and coffee and stuff. And he ended up promoted to like a regional supervisor or something within a few months. It was no longer in the office. And he was like, wow, I can't believe this happened. Well, he finally got the acceptance of where he was.
Right. When we're in a state of acceptance, we're not resisting what's trying to come. We're not pushing away.
Wouldn't that be so nice to do every single day, just to be open? Okay, I'm here, I'm present, instead of, oh God, where are the bills going to get paid next week?
True that. And I for one, need to work on that one, being fully present.
Maybe that's part of acceptance. Is the only way you can accept anything is if you're being present. And I'm posing that as a question because I'm not real good at that either.
That's what I believe. And then that's where that attitude of gratitude comes in. That you are able to
only be grateful
it.
In that moment.
That's right. Right there in that moment, being grateful for even breathing, or for the chair that's holding your body up. This is why
I got to tell you, this is why I love doing interviews, and this is why I love doing sessions with people, because I always get a golden nugget.
Isn't that something? That's why we're all here.
Yeah.
I had an aunt who, when I was younger, I would always, whenever things got tough, nobody would hear from me because I was so busy digging my heels in and making it happen, right? And she said, honey, we know when times are hard for you because then we don't hear from you. And she said, I got to tell you something. She said, the reason that God put us down here, a whole bunch of us at the same time, is because we're here to support one another. She said, otherwise he would have just put us down here one at a time.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Isn't that that's a golden nugget right there.
That golden nugget.
And that shifted me. It shifted me. It didn't make me a person that, okay, when I've got hard times, I go and whine to people.
I was just going to say that. It's not about whining.
No.
It's
about being in the midst of whatever it is, but still continuing on, but keeping those connections going because they make everything bearable.
Well, and you never know when they're going to cure you either.
That's right.
They may have the answer. I was talking to somebody. I was really frustrated about a phone bill. And I said, I keep calling the phone company and keep calling the phone company, and it's driving me crazy. And she goes, have you thought of calling another service? And I went, duh, okay. And I did. And, of course, amazingly enough, it was like $40 less a month, and they could get it done that day. And, but we need input from each other.
We do constantly.
Michael says he likes getting the input. That's pretty cool if an angel wants to listen to us.
That really is. All right, I have a question for Michael.
Okay.
I understand the whole human condition, and I understand, why we're here and we show up on the planet to have experiences and, to be here together for one another as human beings. How about an angel?
He goes, I don't understand your question.
Well, my question is
what's he here for?
What are you here for, and what is it that I'm trying to formulate it. I have the feeling tone here.
He says it's my job.
It's your job.
He chose and all of the angels chose to assist humans, because they don't just work with this planet, by the way. He wants you to know that they are multidimensional creatures, just like dragons and fairies and everything else, and they travel between realms and between planets. But he chose to assist humans. He says, remember, I once was human. I was a warrior. What I saw humans doing to each other was horrid. And so I choose to remain here as long as God wants me to be here, to assist.
So that's what angels do. So angels were once human beings, so they have some insight and some compassion into the whole human drama, and then they choose to be here as servants to support us. That's beautiful. Thanks, Michael. Now, Devra, you mentioned dragons, and we talked about dragons in our conversation earlier.
I love
a lot
dragons.
of people say that dragons are all about fairy tales. They never existed. What's your truth about dragons, Devra?
What I have been taught, and I started studying about dragons 18 years ago, and working with dragons and energy of dragons 18 years ago, is this. Here's the quick Reader's Digest version. God put dragons on this planet, just like a lot of other creatures, to have a specific job. And their specific job was to take care of the land and, clean the waterways and help assist in cleaning the skies. And then along comes Christianity and the whole Judeo-Christian concept. And here's a dragon they see comes through a village and burns down all the crops. And here's their leaders or spiritual leaders at the time saying, that must be the devil. Why would they destroy your food? We need to kill them. And so humans said, oh, you're right, and started killing them. They didn't stop to, as humans often do, don't stop to think and make sure their brains engage first. And they didn't notice that maybe the crops were infested with something that was going to make them sick, or boll weevils or something. And they just started killing dragons. And so Spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, pulled them out of physical form so the humans couldn't kill any more of them, and made them pure energy. And they still are around, and they still do exactly what their job was, which is to clean the waterways, and they fly through the planet and realign the energy ley lines. And if you ever stand on a vortex and you suddenly get shot with an energy boost, it's usually a dragon that's just flown through you. That's why real heavy-duty psychic people say don't ever stand on top of a vortex. But wow. They're still here, and they're still doing their thing. And sometimes humans get in their way, like when we have tsunamis. It's not their intention to cause, personal injury or, property damage, but there's a job that has to be done. They have to realign and reset the planet so the planet stays here and stays healthy. Now, the cool thing psychically is you can access them just like you can angels. And there's a different energy work you can do using and working with dragons.
Fascinating. And you shared with me a way of accessing your own personal. I mean, do we have personal guardian dragons?
I know I do. It was funny. Up until a year ago, I didn't know anybody didn't know about dragons. I thought, everybody knew about dragons just like they knew about angels. And for me, I have a specific golden dragon that I commune with in dream work, and I can ask questions and get accurate answers from, just like if I was talking to Michael. And I've had several clients that I've been able to identify a specific dragon. Not everybody, again, we're back to the instrument, not everybody's meant to work with dragons. Just like not everybody's meant to talk to angels. So, there are places that you can go on this planet where dragons are much more prevalent, and people are actually take you on energy tours and stuff in England and Scotland and places in China where there are a lot of people studying these dragons. But I don't know if the American culture will ever catch on to it. Maybe.
Interesting. Well, we've always heard a lot of folklore about fairies and brownies and in Ireland, of course, there's the leprechaun. Are those?
Oh, there's great fairies here. There are wonderful fairies all over the United States too. I've met and interacted with fairies in the ancient redwoods up in Northern California, and in there were some sort of little fairy kind of entities that I could never identify when I lived in Florida. I used to go out toward the swamps, and there were little light beings that lived out there. It's all over the world. You just have to be open, and it's amazing. A lot of people work with UFOs. Personally, I've never seen one. I've never talked to one, but I don't doubt their existence.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we don't understand, and it is very limiting. So people like you can help everybody open up and begin to look into these things.
Wouldn't it be kind of arrogant of us to think we're the only ones on the planet? I mean, in the universe.
It is indeed.
It always blows my mind.
Yeah, I think it's changing. I think people are waking up knowing that there's more. And I think it'll be a beautiful time when we can do that.
Yeah, as long as we embrace and accept and we don't automatically go to they're different, let's kill them.
Yeah, let's destroy it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really time. But that's why it's important for you and others like you to share, to help to wake everybody up.
Well, and you too, honey. You're right in there with the rest of us. It takes light beings to bring forth light.
Well, that's certainly true.
And that's what you're doing with this radio show.
Well, I certainly accept that. Now, Devra, as we come near to the end of our hour, one question for you and Michael. If there's one thing that you want to leave the audience with, one thing that could really support people to live to their highest potential, what would that be?
Michael says this is easy. Identify whether or not you are at cause of your life or at effect of life. If you can be at cause of your life, then it will ripple out and and then you're not putting anybody else at effect of your life either. If everybody is self-responsible and in cause mode, then this trauma drama stuff will go away. It automatically will just disappear.
Excellent. That's beautiful. I just invite everybody listening, everybody within earshot, take that to heart and share that message with the people that are around you. You might not be able to share it verbally, but show it in action, and you'll unconsciously give others permission to do the same. I thank you so much, Devra, for the wonderful information that you've shared. I know you will come back again, and in fact, you know what? I know that our listeners probably have lots of questions for you, and I know they would love to have a little contact with Michael. Would you be willing to come back on the show and do a show that's purely for question and answers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Michael says, yeah, I love that.
Let's do that. Let's make sure that we do schedule that. So I invite everybody listening to make sure that you stay connected with the show, subscribe to Solutions Radio, and then you'll be emailed when the upcoming show will be. I'll make sure that I do it really soon. We're going to work and look into Devra and Michael's schedules and see when we can make that happen. And we'll just dedicate that entire show.
We'd be totally honored to do that.
Excellent. Beautiful.
And thank you so much for having us.
You're so very welcome. I'm grateful. And I thank you for listening to Solutions Radio. We're signing out. Peace and blessings. Take good care.